Welcome to the Islamic Library Association. We are dedicated to showcasing Muslims' rich contributions to literature and society while advocating for accurate representation and equity in libraries. Hello and Assalamu alaikum. My name is Khalisah Harris. I am a librarian and the founder of the Islamic Library Association. Through this work, we advocate for equity in libraries and public spaces, ensuring accurate representation of Muslims while highlighting the incredible contributions Muslims have made and continue to make to the literary landscape. This channel serves as a space to celebrate and amplify Muslim voices, recognize Muslim contributions, and promote the diversity of perspectives within libraries and society. Today, we are joined by Dr. Sheikh Safiullah. Dr. Safi is a retired historian, educator, and longtime public library manager whose career has been dedicated to connecting communities through knowledge and cultural understanding. He has led innovative programs, fostered dialogue on critical social issues, and championed meaningful representation in libraries. Beyond his work in Utah, Dr. Safi has established an elementary school in Bangladesh and is currently in the process of founding a secondary school, a library, and a health clinic in his hometown, demonstrating his lifelong commitment to education, community development, and public service. Assalamu alaikum, Dr. Safi. How are you today?
Wa alaikum assalam. Alhamdulillah, I'm doing very well. Thank you.
You're welcome. I'm very happy to have you here with us today. Your work connecting communities through libraries and education is truly inspiring. So let's just start from the beginning. What first inspired you to get involved with libraries and community work?
Excellent question. My love for libraries began when I was 12. I started a small school library that I managed on my own until I graduated. When the school began censoring books, I moved the collection to a rented room nearby. That simple decision transformed the project into a true community library. Neighbors, students, and friends came to read, borrow books, and share ideas. It taught me early on that a library is more than a building. It is a space where people connect, learn, and imagine a better future together.
Nice. So, talking about having a better future, you've had a fascinating journey from Bangladesh to Libya, Canada, and now Utah. How have those experiences shaped how you see education and libraries?
Each place or country I have lived has shaped my understanding of education and the power of libraries. In Libya, I studied in an incredible, diverse environment, and the library became my cultural and intellectual meeting place. In Canada, at the University of Manitoba, I learned research skills that became foundational: how to navigate academic databases and think critically. Those skills helped me land my first U.S. library position at the University of Utah's Marriott Library, where I assisted students with research and guided them through academic resources. These experiences reinforced my belief that libraries are not only centers of information, they are centers of empowerment dialogue, and personal growth.
You mentioned the first position that you got in the U.S. That
Yes.
position is when you served as a manager at Salt Lake City Public Library, correct? What were some of your main responsibilities there? And what did you enjoy most about that role?
In 2015, our director, the late John Spears, recognized my passion for community engagement and asked me to lead the new Marmalade branch at the Salt Lake City Public Library System before even construction began.
Mm.
I worked closely with architects, contractors, and neighborhood leaders, helped shape the building's design, hired staff, and built strong partnership with nearby schools.
Mm-hmm.
At the same time, I became deeply involved in community programming, organizing the Marmalade Coffee and Chocolate Club, the Marmalade Book Club, Black History events, civic dialogue, and discussion on topics like police brutality
Mm.
and Utah redistricting. I also created a partnership between the City Library and the University of Utah's Bennion Center to offer ACT preparation for underserved students at West High School. When the branch opened, it quickly became one of the city's most active community hubs.
Mm.
I was honored to receive the Utah Library Association's 2017 Librarian of the Year award. What I enjoyed most was watching the library bring people together across cultures, ages, and perspectives.
So you did a lot of wonderful programs. I mean, those aren't just programs; those are educational, informational, societal, pivotal engagements. Ultimately,
It was a joy.
unfortunately, yes, I could see. That's really. I wish more libraries did more programs like that. I know it does happen, but when you focused and based your career on doing those types of programs, that's, phenomenal, really. And it could definitely be used as an example of what all a library can do because you've done it. What librarians can offer to their patrons and society and their communities. So,
Inshallah, you and others will do it in near future.
inshallah, yes, definitely, definitely. So you mentioned you started in 2015 at
At
Salt Lake.
Marmalade branch. At
Yes.
I started 2015 at Marmalade branch, but I started the city library in 2002.
Okay. And how long have you been teaching altogether between your teaching and librarianship? Which one started first? Which one? I guess librarianship. You started that love when you were 12.
Yes, library
So,
started first.
and then that transitioned you into the love of teaching.
Yes. So I
Nice.
have worked in libraries
Hmm.
for about 35 years
Mm.
and have taught for 28 years.
Okay.
My library career began at the University of Utah's Marriott Library in 1986,
Mm.
where I worked until 1998. I
Okay.
joined the Salt Lake City Public Library in 2002
Hmm.
and served there until my retirement in August 2025. My teaching career began as a teaching assistant in the University of Utah's History Department for 6 years. Since 2002, I have taught as an adjunct assistant professor at both the University of Utah and Salt Lake Community College, and I continue teaching today.
That's nice. So you just retired this year in 2025, correct?
From the city library, Salt Lake City, yes.
So what was that experience like? Looking back, do you feel you accomplished everything you wanted to in your career?
I retired at the end of August 2025, as I said earlier, and I'm currently going through a transition period. I miss my library patrons,
Mhm.
colleagues, and friends. It is a mix of nostalgia
Mhm.
and gratitude. At the same time, I now have more time to spend with my wife and family, which has been a wonderful change. During my library career, I became known as a community advocate, especially for minority and underserved groups. I worked very hard to bring people into the library who did not see it as part of their daily lives. I initiated programs celebrating Eid al-Fitr, Diwali, Chinese New Year, and Dia de Mortuos, and I launched an ACT prep program to support youth from diverse backgrounds. These efforts helped build bridges and make the library a more inclusive place for everyone. Looking back, I feel that I accomplished a great deal,
Yes.
but my work is not done. I am now forming a non-profit organization called Building Opportunities for Schools, Healthcare, and Tomorrow, BOSHAT, 501c3 initiative. Through BOSHAT, I hope to continue serving underserved and refugee population in Utah and to establish a healthcare clinic and secondary school in my home village in Comilla, Bangladesh.
You started a nonprofit organization. You're still building schools and libraries and all kinds of things. And you said that you like to do things to help highlight underserved communities for them to be able to see themselves. And as a Muslim librarian and educator, uh, I know sometimes we talk about representation. What does representation of Muslims in libraries, what does that phrase mean to you personally as a Muslim librarian and educator?
Excellent question. For me, representation means ensuring that every community, especially those often overlooked, feels seen, included, and valued in library spaces. In the US, I see three main Muslim groups: African American Muslims, immigrant Muslims, and refugee Muslims. Each group faces different challenges, but none have had a strong presence in libraries. African American Muslims continue to face generational and economic struggles. Refugee Muslims are working to rebuild their lives, and libraries have not yet fully reached them. Immigrant Muslims are often more established economically, but many are still not engaged with library programs or resources. My goal was to connect all three groups with libraries to show them how libraries can support their growth and help them integrate into the larger community. I feel proud to have done that. I have shared these experiences at the American Library Association and other conferences. Of course, it wasn't always easy. While I received support from many library colleagues, I also faced challenges and discrimination at times. Libraries are still predominantly white spaces. Over 85% of librarians are white, and some people felt uncomfortable with initiative that I brought Muslim communities and minority communities to the libraries, especially programs such as Eid al-Fitr, Ramadan, into greater visibility. Even so, I cherish my years in libraries. There were both joyful and difficult moments, but overall, it was deeply meaningful work.
Librarians would feel uncomfortable discussing topics they may have been unfamiliar with, or bringing in groups of people that they're not used to being around or used to accommodating. So do you feel an organization such as the Islamic Library Association, do you feel that it's needed, and why?
Yes, an Islamic Library Association is very much needed. It would give Muslim librarians, scholars, and readers a collective voice, similar to what the Jewish Library Association provides for its community. An ILA, which is Islamic Library Association, could advocate within professional bodies like ILA, develop accurate educational materials about Islam, and review books to ensure fair and respectful representation of Muslim communities. It could also mentor new professionals, build partnerships, and host programs or exhibits that might highlight Islamic culture and scholarship. Right now, Muslim perspectives are underrepresented in the library collections, programming, and leadership. An Islamic Library Association could help fill that gap and promote a richer, more inclusive understanding of Muslim heritage. In short, it would not only empower Muslim library professionals, it would strengthen libraries everywhere.
Nice. With the work that you have been doing for decades at this point, throughout it all, you've been deeply involved in community programming on topics such as race, Islamophobia, and things like that. What have those conversations taught you about people and about building understanding?
These conversations have taught me that real understanding begins when people come together, listen, and build partnership. No community can move forward alone. When we address issues like Islamophobia, we are really addressing the human tendency to fear what we don't know. Open dialogue helps people see that Islam is part of the broader Abrahamic tradition, and it is teaching emphasize equality, compassion, and respect. One of the most meaningful experiences for me was building the Interfaith Coalition, Shalom, Salam, and Tikkun Ulam, with local Jewish and Christian groups. Together, we served seniors, refugees, and underserved students, providing that cooperation can replace suspicion with friendship. I also organized a major pluralism program titled Cultural and Religious Pluralism Today at the Salt Lake City Public Library in 2011, where many faith communities participated. A Native American elder offered the opening prayer, which symbolized the mutual respect and inclusion we hope to foster. These experiences strengthened my belief that Muslims must be active in promoting pluralism and civic harmony and dialogue. The US gives us the freedom and responsibility to engage in open dialogue. Only by working together, we can build a society rooted in empathy, understanding, and shared humanity.
With all the work within the libraries, the schools, the different organizations, the programming, even with all of this going on that you've been doing, you also started a school and you're turning your former home in Bangladesh into a library. What inspired those projects and what do they mean to you?
Good question. My inspiration comes from my childhood. I grew up in a small Bangladeshi village where education was limited and no library existed. I did not see a public library until I was in the 7th grade. Those experiences showed me how powerful access to knowledge can be. When I was in the 11th grade, I helped establish an elementary school in my village so children would not have to walk miles for basic education. That commitment has now grown into 2 new projects very close to my heart, transforming my former family home into a public library and establishing a health clinic and secondary school in the same village. The library will give children a space to read, to learn, have fun, and explore something that I never had. The clinic will support elderly people, young mothers, and children who often go without care. These are not just development projects to me, they are very personal missions shaped by gratitude and responsibility. I am grateful that 17 of my friends and colleagues have joined me in supporting these efforts through our nonprofit Boshat, building opportunities for schools, healthcare, and tomorrow. This work is about creating lasting change. Education and healthcare are the foundations of dignity, and if we can provide them, we can help an entire community move forward a better future. That's the way I see it.
You mentioned how when you were a child, you did not have access into with the public library until you were in the 7th grade. And you want to make
Yes,
sure that the future generations don't have to experience that. Ultimately, you're wanting it better for the future generations. So here within America, like you said, we have the freedom and the responsibility of having dialogue. In your experience, because you've been in different countries, different places, how well do U.S. libraries represent Muslim voices through books, programs, or exhibits?
very good question. Representation of Muslim voices in US libraries is still limited. Even African American communities who have a long history in this country continue to be underrepresented in collections and programmings. That gives us a sense of how much work remains for Muslims. The good news is that more young Muslim authors, librarians, are publishing children's and YA literature. And those books are slowly finding their place in libraries. But we still need stronger partnership and coalitions to amplify these voices. During my time as a chair of ILA's Ethnic and Multicultural Information Exchange Roundtable, EMART, in 2018 and 19, I helped address tensions between EMART and the Coretta Scott King Book Awards Committee, CSK. Through sustained dialogue, I proposed elevating the Coretta Scott King Book Awards into its own independent roundtable as ALA approved two from Coretta Scott Book Awards Roundtable today. I am proud that my leadership contributed to strengthening representation for African American authors and librarians. As the Salt Lake City Public Library, I organized programs celebrating Muslim culture, organized dialogue on Arab Spring, and celebrated Eid al-Fitr and Ramadan events. And the most meaningful was a 2011 Interfaith program on cultural and religious pluralism. Across the country, there is progress. Local organizations host cultural events, and even city governments now hold annual iftars. But libraries can play a much larger role. They have the power and responsibility to champion diverse stories, including Muslim voices.
We're both aware of certain prejudices or discriminatory actions that Muslims may experience in America, despite the concept of freedom of speech and practice of your faith. As a Muslim librarian, what advice would you give to other Muslim librarians or students who want to bring their faith and cultural identity into their work?
Excellent question. My advice begins with the first word revealed in the Quran, Iqra. Read in the name of Allah. It reminds us that knowledge is both a personal responsibility and a path to serving humanity. Reading helps us understand not only our own tradition and faith, but also the shared struggles of others. From the Holocaust to Gaza, from the enslavement of Africans to the persecution of Native Americans, all faiths reject injustice. Yet, these histories show how often we fail to truly understand our sacred teachings. For Muslim librarians and students, bringing your identity into your work means using it as a bridge. Islam teaches equality, dignity, and pluralism. Values the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, emphasized when he said, "There is no superiority of an Arab over a non-Arab, or of a white person over a black person." Librarianship is about connecting people to knowledge and to teach others. Muslim professionals can help expand understanding by ensuring Muslim stories, voices, and contributions are part of library collections and programs. So my advice is simple. Read deeply. Serve sincerely. And represent truthfully. Let your work reflect the justice, inclusion, and peace at the heart of our faith. In doing so, you honor both your profession and the command of Iqra, to learn and to enlighten.
Yes. That's excellent advice. I think it's very simple, but definitely worthy of reminding people, Muslims, especially in the library and educational fields, to do just that. You know, these types of literary fields, you're doing a lot of reading, but that reading also is what gives you the knowledge to do what you have to do ultimately. And with that knowledge is how you can bring your faith and your culture with you, regardless of wherever you are or what your professional career may be. So I have one final question for you. When you look back on your long career over 35 years, what do you hope people remember most about your work and your approach to representation?
This is a long question, but I'll try to make it shorter answer. I hope people remember that I genuinely cared about people. Each person who walked into the library was more than a patron. They were a story I wanted to hear. Those small moments of connection became the most meaningful part of my work and life. Throughout my career, I tried to present myself first as a human being and then as a librarian. Regardless of my background, faith, accent, or age, I loved serving the community, sharing knowledge, and listening to others. That exchange of humanity defined my approach to librarianship. Teaching has been the same. My students have always mattered to me, and I feel proud seeing them achieve their goals, including those who went on Ivy League and many other major and public universities. I have written dozens of recommendation letters because their success feels like a shared accomplishment. I am also grateful for my colleagues at the University of Utah, Salt Lake Community College, Salt Lake Public Library, and across ILA, IMART, IRRT, APALA, ILA, Reforma, BCALA, CALA, and JCLC, working with them and restructuring the ALA's International Relations Roundtable as a chair during my term in 2022-2023 was a great achievement. All this showed me how deeply libraries influence communities around the world. In the end, I hope to be remembered as a community builder, someone who valued dialogue, diversity, and dignity. I have always loved people and the memories we create together. My career has been about service, people, connection, and helping others feel seen, and I hope that spirit continues in the next generation of librarians.
That is wonderful. You said something that really, really stood out about you wanted each patron to be a story that you wanted to hear. That is profound. As a librarian, I understand that 100% when you're not looking at each patron as just someone coming in. No, they're a human. They have needs. They're here. How can we address their needs? How can we help them? And, to say that, I definitely can relate to, wanting to really be able to meet the needs of the people. And you're in that space, and you want to use that space wisely and kindly to get the most that you can for your patrons. And just the idea and concept of community and humanity, because sometimes I've seen where librarians are just like check off like a number, we're not in that
Yeah.
line of service. Not in that line of service. So it doesn't make sense to me when I see that. I know that you are an amazing librarian and educator and a great example of a Muslim librarian. Oftentimes people, oh, they're a great librarian, but don't add the Muslim part.
Yeah.
That erases the impact that Muslims have within the literary landscape or within the service of service. you know, like you said, that you want each patron to be a story that you can hear. That's amazing. And to just really keep focusing on the humanity of people. If we all just acknowledged everyone's humanity, I think the world will be a better place. Like you
Yes.
mentioned earlier, the wrongs or the injustices from this time to current, and that, there's a lot of injustice in the world, and librarians do have a special place in it to really be able to help educate and bring communities together instead of dividing communities. Libraries have such a role in society, and sometimes I think just the general public don't realize it as much. And unfortunately, some librarians don't even realize how much of an impact that they have on society and the community that they actually reside in. Your work is amazing. I wish you all the continued success. And people have been able to experience you as a Muslim librarian for all of these decades, and even continuously for what you're doing in your hometown and your childhood village. That's just very meaningful. And I'm sure you put your heart in everything that you do.
Thank you. Thank you. My work at the library remains to remains in my mind and heart as a very strong memory. And sometime when I saw children coming at the door, especially immigrant and refugee kids, and a few times they asked me, "Am I allowed to come?" That is something really touched my heart, because people think that either I have to buy a card to get into the library, or library is not my place. And I always wanted to make sure that library is a place for everybody. It is the only free space remain in this country where people can still come together and talk freely from their heart. And I wish people like you and others will continue with this mission. Thank you for having me today.
I look forward to really stay abreast of all the things you're continuously accomplishing. So again, I thank you so much for your time, and thank you so much for being here. And I hope you have a good evening, inshallah.
Thank you for the opportunity. I appreciate it very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
Join the Islamic Library Association, and together we can shape a more inclusive future for literature.